And I figured out I was in the wrong class. So the following day I made a trip to Kenyatta University. Then the BCom class was at JKU Art. To go and change, because clearly this was not my space.
Your field.
Yeah, because then the next class after that was statistics, dy, dx, differentiation. And I knew that was just not my space.
Remember those days?
Another God's intervention, because the fellow at Kenyatta University said there is no way you're going to change from a professional course of a higher ranking
to a
lower ranking.
So you wanted to go to what?
We were to go and do education or BA.
Hi everybody. Today is another very exciting moment. We have with a very exciting guest, Catherine Wahome, a good friend to myself and a good friend to Nabo Capital, and there's a lot to learn from her. I personally looking forward to learn from you, Catherine. So Catherine, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Pius.
Yes. It's really great. Here. Thank you, thank you, Catherine. So let me not spoil, let me not burst your bubble. So Catherine, I think the best way to start is really from your story, because I know your story is amazing. I have some nuggets here and there, but I think it's a good opportunity to just get to know you better. So you've been a role model to very many people, but people tend to see the product and not the process. If you, in a summary, why are you where you are today? Why are you who you are today?
Okay, great. So if I was to summarize, I would start by saying it's by God's grace.
That's
the bottom line. But basically, it's been a long journey. I grew up in rural Meru.
Wow.
Yes. Don't ask how many years ago,
Look
but
like
many.
You're born in town around
No. Both my parents were teachers. My father was a headmaster for as long as I can remember, and my mother was both primary school teachers. So I guess you could say, by the standards of our time, we were a bit privileged, compared to the village people. So I had the benefit. My dad was very big on education. So boarding school was a must. So I actually went to boarding school at 10 years.
Wow.
And I guess part of, when I look back, I think that played a major part, because then you're thrown in the deep end to swim on your own from when you're very young. So I became independent from when I was very young.
And this boarding was where?
Nyeri.
In Nyeri.
Yeah.
Another rural setting.
Another very rural setting, and a very strict, a Catholic school, nuns, very, very strict, so discipline, and I was in trouble most of the times because, just from my character and so on. I think the other thing that maybe I would like to say about my background, going back home, is I grew up in a setting where there were equal opportunities. So a lot of the gender debates, I have understood them as an adult.
Those days?
Those days, yes. I keep saying my father was a man ahead of his time. So there was nothing, you're a boy, you're a girl. His differentiator was age. So as we went to fetch water from the river, because we had no piped water, my brother carried a jerrycan just like the
ladies.
If you're going to get feed for the cows, all of us went, So for me, that's also another thing I think has really played a major part in being where I am, because I never felt a lesser being, I never felt disadvantaged. So my dad gave us equal opportunities. I think I must also say my dad was great at incentives. So you did stuff, you got compensated for it. So he set very clear targets.
So you learned to earn very early.
Very early, and targets. He set targets very early, and he would come, supervise, and then reward. So in terms of schooling, my early schooling, I did it in the village until class 5, when now I went to boarding school in Nyeri. Like I said, I went to my O-levels in Nyeri as well. So that can tell you where my Nyeri connections began, because you have that part of the story.
Yes.
And then for my A-levels, I went back to Meru, Kaaga Girls. Growing up, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, but I knew whatever I did had to have people. in it.
Okay.
So after going to high school and hearing a little bit about careers, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was actually picking my options for campus, I picked law because I didn't think I could do commerce because I didn't like accounts, I didn't like numbers. But I wasn't too smart. I wasn't smart enough for law because during my year for the learned fellows, yes. Because during my year actually they shot the pass mark by a point, so I dropped off, and I went to do BCom because the career guidance master then couldn't understand because I'd picked law, education, BA. We had the option of 4. He said, but you can do BCom. Wow. So I picked because he said I can do BCom. And that's how I ended up. I did Bachelor of Commerce.
Another God's intervention.
Completely, completely. Now I must tell you this because when I went to do BCom, I hadn't done economics, I hadn't done maths, and so we have our first economics class, and we are asked to define. It was business studies, to define demand. I have no clue. And you know, there are people defining it, and I've never forgotten. It is a need backed up by purchasing power. And I figured out I was in the wrong class. So the following day I made a trip to Kenyatta University. Then the BCom class was at JKU Art to go and change because clearly this was not my space. Your field. Yeah, because then the next class after that was statistics, dy, dx, differentiation. And I knew that was just not my space.
Remember those days?
Another God's intervention because the fellow at Kenyatta University said there is no way you're going to change from a professional course of a higher ranking to a lower ranking.
So you wanted to go to what?
We were to go and do education or BA.
Wow.
Because I thought those were easier to hack. We had gone with 2 friends of mine. And they said, you guys go back, get your act together. And
good advice.
Very solid. In fact, if I found him today, I would reward him. So I went, I didn't have a choice. And I said, you know what? This thing I will hack one way or the other. And the rest is history. I actually, and I say this with all humility, I went on to top my class. Wow. When we were graduating in BCom. And were they not,
was it JKU Art or KU?
We were in JKU Art, but just being accommodated there because this was KU.
It was KU.
We were the first BCom class in KU.
Yes.
Now allow me to share this also because there's another major milestone because this has also defined my life a lot. So then it was you either do marketing or you do accounting. Debit credit just wasn't working for me because in my mind credit is you owe, but in accounting language credit is a good thing, is a plus. So I was
something totally different.
So second year we had to make a choice. Are you doing accounts? Are you doing marketing? And we were very conflicted because I mean anybody who didn't do accounting then, you really had no future. And I remember my roommate for a very, very long time. She's still my very good friend. So we sat, we were agonizing, and we had to make this decision the following morning. And it's amazing how wisdom comes in moments of difficulty. And she said, you know what? I would rather be head among rats than tail among elephants.
Wow.
And that spot, we knew what course we had to pursue. And it didn't matter that accounting was, you know, the place to go. We said, you know what, if nothing else, let's enjoy our remaining 3 years. We will cross the bridge of jobs thereafter. And that phrase has actually become something I use a lot when I need to make a decision. Because my friend reasoned, you know, if, you know, Animal Kingdom, if all the heads are called, the rat will be there with the elephant. But the elephant that is the tail will not be in that meeting. And that for me was the deciding point. So we decided we are doing marketing because that's what we are good at. And that's what we did. And
Catherine, you did marketing.
I did marketing.
There's a lot I still don't know about you.
Well, during my time, they called it business administration, but it was basically marketing and management. Because then there weren't as many choices as there are now. At some point, I even thought I would be a salesperson. Very, very bad idea. So that's in terms of my education. So I completed at Kenyatta University, and I hit the streets. Growing up, we were encouraged to work hard so that you can do well in school, so that you can get a good job.
So many.
But I couldn't get a good job because I did well. Isn't that ironical?
Oh.
Yes. So I went knocking different doors, and I'm told, with your performance, we know you're going back to school.
Yes.
I had never considered a master's degree, never, because I was already so tired.
Yes.
My time used to go until third year, and by the time you're third year, the acronym was TTY, tired third year. So we didn't just want to see anything to do with books.
Yes.
But nobody would give me a job, because you did so well, you will go back to academia.
Of your own success.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Another God's intervention. So on an idle afternoon, I don't have a job. I stop at what was Kenya Times then.
Yes.
And a friend of mine is there, and he says, you guys, what are you doing? I was with my very good friend, the one of the head of rats.
Yes.
And he says, so you guys were very good at school, always in the library. Have you considered doing a master's? And we say, no. He says, no, in fact, at University of Nairobi, my friend is the one who runs that program. Why don't we go and see him? We go and see the fellow.
Yes.
He was just wrapping up the applications for the master's program.
Yes.
And this guy says, just hold on, give these two girls a chance.
Yes.
So they're not planned at all following day in Meru, because I had to have the chief sign a few forms. And that's how I went to do my MBA at the University of Nairobi.
That's now Kabete.
That's Lower Kabete.
Lower Kabete.
With a scholarship from the University of Nairobi, which was completely unusual, because I was from a rival campus. Yeah, so that's how I did my MBA.